I'd go as far as saying this lens would be the only lens that I'd bring with me if I was going traveling the world. Hands down. It is the 24-120 f4 Z lens S-line. It's got a fancy S here. That indicates it's S-line. Just saying, means it's important. It's got a fancy S on it. And this lens is probably my favourite lens in my bag. Ironically enough, it's not the one I use the most in Tassie, but that's because I think I shot a lot of coastal stuff in Tasmania, and when I'm at the coast, most often than not, I'll be using a wide angle. But I'm going to chat about a couple of reasons why this lens should be in your camera bag, and the one big negative that I have with this lens. If you'll excuse me, I have to refer to my notes, because otherwise I would end up rambling for 25 minutes. I'm going to talk a bit about the lens, then I'm going to show you some images that I've taken with the lens, that I've processed, and kind of a couple of examples of why I think this lens is suitable for me, because I like to run and gun. I like to just leave my tripod at home, or not even leave it at home, but I bring it with me. I always bring it with me anyway, but it stays strapped to the camera bag. And I just love to just spray, just capture images with this lens and not have to set up a perfect composition and frame it all out nicely and get the tripod level and all this crack. So I want to talk about the negative of this lens first and get that out of the way. It has no stabilization. And I know the Z cameras have built-in stabilization to them, and that more often than not does the trick, but I would love if this lens had built-in VR. And it's got two features, right? It has this ring on it. It's a multi-function ring that you can map to aperture or exposure compensation. It's a pretty cool feature to have on a lens. And it's got an FN button that you can also map to a quick function. I have it mapped to turn on the grid display on my camera. But I have two FN buttons already on my camera, which would do that job. And also, I've never once used this ring here, even though I think I have it mapped to my aperture. If I shot more video, perhaps it's handy if you're shooting video and you're holding and you want to adjust your exposure on the fly without having to adjust your grip. Because often, like, videographers will know that's kind of the way I'm holding my camera, and I'm often holding the lenses, or the lens like this, so it'd be nice to be able to just twist and adjust your exposure. But for my needs, I would prefer to have seen those two features negated in lieu of VR. Just my opinion. That's the only negative I have about this lens. The positives. I'm really happy to have an AM switch here for autofocus and manual. I love having those switches on the lenses. It's really helpful. It's really quick to swap between autofocus and manual. Might seem like a small thing, big help. It doesn't take a big turn to go from 24 to 120. That's not even 90 degrees. Okay? So it does not take a big turn to go there. What else? It's reasonably lightweight. Not sure how heavy it is in terms of grams, but does it say it anywhere? No, I'll put it on the screen now. It's somewhere online. Not that heavy. Really, really sharp. It's a brilliantly sharp lens. Okay. Now, I didn't look at reviews of people taking photographs of brick walls before I bought this lens. Like, the way I see it, we're all processing images nowadays. We're all using different softwares to process. We're all looking at images on phones and screens. No, not all the time. Obviously, images are printed in books. But let's be honest here. A lot of us are looking at images on our phones. Phones that are calibrated differently. Phones that have different saturation and brightness levels. So, are we too concerned about how sharp this thing is edge to edge? If it was an astrophotography lens, possibly. For me, no. Okay. What else? Let me refer to my notes. Great focal range, 24 to 120, absolutely brilliant. I have not found myself wanting much more than 120. on any occasion in the last 6 months. Of course, there are times when you'd love a long focal length just to really compress the scene, but more often than not, and as you'll see here in some of the images I'm about to show you, I rarely even get out to 120 with this lens. A woodland photographer, this is your dream lens. This is the only lens you need to bring with you. If you're a hiker, only lens you need to bring with you. Travel landscape photographer, if you just want a walk around lens, if you're going through markets in Indonesia and then you're going to go for a hike in the mountain, if you want to shoot some outdoor portraits even, you'd be surprised. I know it's f4, but if you place your subject in a nice location where there's nothing distracting in the background and you shoot at f4 at like 80 to 100 mil, you will get a very pleasing portrait. Okay, bokeh isn't just about aperture. Bokeh is about the distance that the subject is from the background behind them and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, I absolutely love this lens. Really, really nice. Oh yeah, another thing. It's got a really nice lens hood, and I think this is something that I never see mentioned in reviews, but really great lens hood. So I love shooting like rain and adverse weather, and I love a deep lens hood that's going to keep the rain off the lens. So I can go out shooting in, if I want to get a rainbow and there's a rain shower coming and the rain is coming in sideways, this keeps my lens dry with the actual glass part, so I don't have to be getting out my cloth, wiping the lens back, shoot, 2 seconds later, more moisture on the lens. Okay, nice deep lens hood, big plus for me. Okay, let's look into some sample images here, and I'm going to show you kind of why I like this lens in terms of not having to change lenses when you're out shooting. Because the last thing we want, just let me get up the screen record here. The last thing we want when we're out shooting is to have to go change lenses when the light is good. And you probably know at this stage, like, you're going to miss an opportunity for an image. Okay, so the more time you spend looking in your camera bag and staring into your camera sensor to change the lens, the greater chance you have of missing the shot. Okay, let's jump into Lightroom. This is one image I want to show you from the Dolomites. This is Tres Chemins de Leverado, I think that's how you pronounce it. Tres Chemins, we all know Tres Chemins, incredible location. This was shot at 24mm, handheld, vertical composition, nice and sharp. You can see there when this loads. Okay, look how sharp the writing is on the building itself, on the Refugio. 24mm. Now, I spotted another scene right beside it, and thankfully, because I had this lens on, I was able to jump in and shoot this scene. Okay, and this was at 40mm. Now you're probably saying, oh well, if I had 24-70, it'd be perfect. Well, yeah, it would. 24-70 is a great lens as well, but I'm talking about 24-120 here. So this was at 40mm, and I was able to shoot this, no issues, no stress, without changing the lens. Here's a night shot with it. Well, we'll call it blue hour night shot with this lens as well, with the 24-120. Beautiful rendering in the colours. Like, bear in mind, this was almost darkness, just kind of touching into the blue hour. The huts are tack sharp. Great image, great lens. Yeah, great image, great lens. That's it, review done. Another image here. Again, if you've ever been to Alta Sweezy in the Dolomites, you'll know it can get a bit chaotic in terms of looking where to shoot. But we just spotted this tree with this little hut here, and really nicely centered, and the light coming from the side. I think I shot this at 80mm, yeah, like 79mm. Why can't I just go to 80? I don't know. Let me show you an example here of why I didn't have to change the lens again. So this is Mount Gungun and the Sunshine Coast in Australia. Just leave the image load there. Sorry, my hard drive's gone very slow. And this was shot 60mm, I think. And I wanted to get the sky in a big, large, kind of ominous looking sky. But then I wanted to go right in on the mountain itself. So yeah, that was 66mm. So I shot this scene, and this was at 105mm. And look at that. Same lens. No, I wasn't on a tripod for this. But that is the benchmark image for this lens for me. The sharpness is incredible. Like, when you're shooting such a high contrast scene, the rendering of colours is beautiful. Really nice image to work with here. yeah, top marks. Again, another image from Scenic Rim here in Australia. What was I shooting here? 27.5. How is that possible? 27.5 mil. I said 28 mil of this lone tree, dead tree in Lake Mugra. Beautiful rainbow behind it, and I spotted another scene right beside it. So again, with rainbows and rain showers, the light is fleeting. Didn't have to change my lens. I zoomed into 105 and shot this scene. There was a bird in the tree. I quite liked that, with the dead trees and the rainbow behind it. Okay. Before I finish, let's skip to one of my favourite images from Tasmania. And the irony of this image is that I actually hiked an hour and a half to shoot a completely different scene that didn't work out because the sunrise was just a mess, and I was on my way back down the mountain and I spotted this, and I love the way the two headlands converge to this kind of V shape and frame the cliffs that are getting the light in the background. Really nice image. This was a 35 mil. Okay, I thought it was 24, but it was 35. Cropped in a small bit, and then from the exact same position I was able to get this scene. 94 millimeters. Now with the crop, so I cropped in a small bit. With the crop, this is probably looking at your 120. Okay, so without having to change the lens, I was able to capture the wider scene at 35 and then go right in and get this moody, really nice image. I just like the sea stacks that are there on the right hand side with the cliff catching the light and this beautiful soft diffused light that was coming in because of a rain shower. And thankfully the rain shower diffused the light, because this was probably an hour after sunrise, maybe a bit less. So yeah, I mean, again, and this is cropped in, and look how sharp it is, you know, really, really sharp. And this is cropped in on a 24 megapixel sensor, mind you. Okay, so that's why I love this lens. I can shoot scenes like that. I can go wide and I can go narrow. I shot on the Olympus system for a long time with the 12 to 40 millimeter lens, which is like 24 to 80 equivalent, and the 24 mil for landscapes for me really is a nice balance between wide angle, but it also has compression where your details aren't getting lost. I feel sometimes with a wide angle, especially in mountainous regions, the mountains get teeny tiny if you're out at like 14 mil, and then you might have to delve into like focal blending and all that. Whereas 24, there's still a nice balance. I mean, am I at 24 on any of these? No, that's 38, 37. It's actually rare I shoot 24. This is 38 here in the Dolomites. Oh yeah, this is 24. Sorry, the night scene that you saw. And you can see that the mountains aren't lost in this image, okay? They still appear nice and prominent in the scene, and it's very close to what the human eye perceives. I think the human eye perceives like 35 mil, maybe a bit more. So you're getting there. So yeah, that is my very non-scientific review of this lens. If you're considering, it's not a cheap lens. It's not a cheap lens, but you get what you pay for with this. And aside from the fact that it has no VR, I'm very, very happy with this lens, and I don't think it'll ever leave my camera bag as long as I'm shooting on the Z system. The only thing that would make me change it would be if I went into more event stuff and I ended up getting a 24-70 2.8 and like a 70-200 or something. But that's two lenses, whereas this is one. So look, I'll leave you make the decision. Brilliant lens. Yeah, I highly recommend it.